YouTube says it has had enough of vaccine misinformation on its site.
And false stories from phony sites to run circles around major news outlets.
Many people don't know the difference between something real and something created to deceive them.
Open your eyes.
If you've ever had this feeling that something was terribly wrong with the world that we live in, but you couldn't figure out just what it was, then you've come to the right place. Secret societies, mystery religions, and the Illuminati have been controlling our reality since the beginning of time. But not anymore, because there is an awakening happening, and you are about to become a part of it. Wake up, because this is a call for an uprising.
This is a call for an uprising. Welcome to today's show. I've been up a couple of nights just thinking about how we've gotten ourselves in this predicament that we're actually in. And there's really nobody to blame but ourselves for allowing this technology into our lives, into our homes. And of course, they've done this through deceitful measures. They've convinced us that we were purchasing products that were beneficial to our lives, and this has all just been one big duping that we've all fallen for hook, line, and sinker. Now, you might say, I haven't fallen for anything hook, line, and sinker, but of course, if you're listening to this video, you're either on a computer, a tablet, or a phone, and if you own one of those devices just like I do, we all could just raise our hands and admit that we've been duped. And now the hardest part seems to be going backwards and getting off of this technology, and that's really what I'm trying to prepare myself for, is trying to go backwards and trying to devolve from all of this technology that has become a part of our everyday lives. Now, there's some benefits, of course, of technology, like all of us being able to interact with one another. There's benefits as far as research is concerned. There's a lot of things that none of us may have ever learned without the internet. We may never have heard anything about Freemasonry or always wondered what those lodges were in our towns. And because of the internet, we've been able to go down the rabbit hole, so to speak, and it's really helped in our awakening. But unfortunately, it's the same thing that's going to fully enslave us in the future. So I wanted to do a video because I mentioned DARPA quite often in my videos I have over the years. And for anybody who's new to all of this stuff, let me explain what I'm getting at with how we've been duped. Because this whole illusion here in America that these corporations, that these stories that follow guys like Elon Musk around or Mark Zuckerberg around, these are all works of fiction. DARPA, which stands for the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, is an agency of the U.S. Department of Defense, which is responsible for the development of emerging technologies for use by the military. But the catch is that this technology is not being used or deployed by the military on other nations, on other militaries, or people that we're at war with. This technology has been deployed on all of us. And it all starts with the internet, of course. They want you to believe that the internet was something that happened organically. If you actually research where the internet started, they'll give you a nice fake explanation saying Vinton Cerf and Robert Kahn are widely recognized for developing the foundational protocols that enable the internet to function. I've talked in the past about how the World Wide Web, WWW, was actually created at CERN, but the internet itself was a weapon created by DARPA. And the whole purpose of this was so that the government could use it as a tool to monitor and track all the things that we were doing online, things we were looking up, things we were talking about with people, whether it was the initiation period where we first had the internet, when we had dial-up and broadband, we had AOL. We used to go on there and people would go into chat rooms and talk to people maybe that they went to school with. And since then, it's obviously evolved to the point now where people are constantly in contact with one another. But all of these companies, from Facebook to Instagram to all of these popular websites online, these were all creations of DARPA. And of course, it's the illusion that these companies were started as startups, that some people came up with these great ideas like Mark Zuckerberg, and they developed Facebook out of thin air. And then it became this popular website that everybody used and everybody uploaded their thoughts and their photos and their locations to. That's not how this works at all. And it's not how any of this actually went down. These are shell companies because the government wanted all of us to be under full surveillance. They wanted all of us to partake in the internet, to sign up for websites like Facebook. And if they didn't market it the way they marketed it, then nobody would have signed up. If they told you from the get-go, hey, here's a website created by the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, which is known for emerging technologies used by our military. Well, most people would say, well, why would I want that in my home? Are they listening to me on these devices? Are they monitoring me on these? So what they did, and they continue to do, is create these shell companies. Amazon, Tesla, Neuralink, SpaceX, Facebook. These are all, again, creations of DARPA. Now, we look at Mark Zuckerberg. Let's start there. And the connections to the United States government and the actual real name of Mark Zuckerberg, which is Jacob Greenberg. So you automatically know where his allegiance is when it comes to the Khazarian mafia and his ties, obviously, to the state of Israel. Mark Zuckerberg did not come up with this idea that we've been told about for years called Facebook. DARPA had already written and created a program called LifeLog, and the Pentagon pulled the plug on LifeLog on February 4th, 2004. And you know what day Facebook actually was launched? February 4th, 2004. Because they knew that they couldn't launch this as LifeLog with any connections or tie-ins to the Pentagon or to the federal government, because people would not willingly participate or sign up for a website like that. So they created this illusion that this guy from Harvard came up with this idea, and then he stole the idea from some other guys at Harvard University, and they made this big backstory, as they always do, that is nothing more than make-believe. Then we go from there and we look at guys like Elon Musk, right? His grandfather, as I've mentioned many times, Joshua Haldeman, the prominent figure in the technocracy movement. All of the technology that you see Elon Musk peddling, from electric vehicles to SpaceX to the Neuralink. These are all creations, transhumanist creations, brought to you by DARPA. He's nothing more, and none of these guys are anything more than actual frontmen for these DARPA black projects that masquerade as businesses and startup corporations or startup companies. And of course, we know, again, some of the things that I've covered over the last couple of years in regards to everything we see with Greenland and Canada, this whole merging of the U.S. into the North American Union. This is something that goes back to the Club of Rome, but was also a large part of technocracy. From there, we can look at Amazon, because a lot of people don't know that Amazon has a direct connection with DARPA. We have guys like Rusty Thomas, who leads government solutions at Amazon, who previously led DARPA's Project Blackjack and Pit Boss teams. We have other employees and connections directly between Amazon and DARPA, but most notably, the inventor of DARPA, Lawrence Geis, one of the founding fathers of DARPA. Do you know who his grandson is? His grandson goes by the name of Jeff Bezos. So the co-founder of DARPA, who was also involved with the Atomic Energy Commission when 300 pounds of weapons-grade uranium conveniently went missing. And DARPA previously was known as ARPA, A-R-P-A, and one of the 4 original founders was, in fact, Jeff Bezos' grandfather. And now what is Jeff Bezos most known for? Well, getting all of us to stop shopping at stores, to purchase all the things that we purchase via Amazon. It started off with purchasing books online, and it's evolved to the point where you could pretty much get any medication you want through Amazon, any type of clothing that you want through Amazon, any type of food that you want through Amazon. And that played a huge factor in everything that they had planned during the plandemic, when they were telling people that there was a virus that originated from a Wuhan lab in China, and everybody just suddenly got so comfortable using the internet to make all of their purchases on Jeff Bezos' website specifically, because they could get those purchases delivered the same exact day as they actually made those purchases, right? And Zero Hedge had an article that they wrote back in May of 2024 where they even go into detail about the FBI file on Jeff Bezos' grandfather, the DARPA co-founder, had been destroyed by the FBI. Because these are things they don't want you to know about. They don't want you to know that all this technology that's being unleashed is all DARPA technology, and it is way more advanced than we could possibly imagine. Now DARPA has their N3, which is non-surgical brain interfaces, right? And what do we know that they're working on out in the public right now? Well, they're trying to get people on board with the Neuralink. We have Sam Altman, who is buddied up with Donald Trump, just like Elon Musk was, who is starting and investing in a new startup that has their own version of the Neuralink because he pretends to be a rival of Elon Musk. And this was something I've talked about many times. You get Bezos and Gates with their own Neuralink, which will be marketed towards Democrats or other people. And they'll just tell you, look, all these companies have come out with this new cool technology. Which one do you want to buy it from? Do you want Samsung? Do you want Apple? Do you want to get it from Tesla? And people think that these guys came up with this type of technology, but they didn't. This is the government using these shell corporations to get you to willingly participate in this. And this is how we've gotten to the point we're at now. We've all purchased these devices. We've purchased phones. We've purchased laptops. We've purchased iPads. We've purchased all of this stuff willingly. We've used our free will to invite this tech into our lives because we've been told from the get-go that this technology was developed by these people like Steve Jobs and Tim Cook in 2025 and Elon Musk and Bill Gates. And there's nothing connected to the government whatsoever. But now you're starting to see and realize that all of this technology is directly connected to the government because all these guys in big tech just so happen to conveniently be very tied in with everything that's happening in politics. These are the guys who are responsible for censorship. These are the guys who are standing at the White House on the front lawn talking about how the next big move is going to be able to cure cancer using technology and gene editing your genetics. So we have Zuckerberg, we have Musk, we have Altman, we have Tim Cook, all these guys talking about how the end of smartphones is the next thing. And we know that the technology they revealed to us is dinosaur technology. They're so far advanced with this, at least 25 to 30 years advanced with this technology, that they give it to us in doses to desensitize us to the technology, to start seeing how we respond when they start talking about Neuralinks, telling us how it's curing people who have Parkinson's, how it's helping the disabled, and they monitor all of that. They're constantly monitoring us like lab rats, no different than you see in some science fiction film or like Jurassic Park, where you see them create these genetically modified dinosaurs and they monitor the behavior. How is this dinosaur adapting with that dinosaur? How is it in this environment versus that environment? That's what they look at us as. And every single day that we're on the internet, they're monitoring and tracking all of us. Now, the stuff with the DARPA N3 project is so far advanced that they actually claim that they're able to connect the human mind with artificial intelligence without actually putting a Neuralink inside of our bodies, using things like I've covered in the past, like smart dust and other technology that they spray on us from the sky, these nanoparticles that they obviously put inside of these vaccines, these injectable nanoparticles. This all comes from DARPA. This is all about them connecting you with machines. Now, I'm going to play a couple of clips for you where we're going to hear about some of the technology that DARPA has. Dr. James Giordano, who is a DARPA advisor, talks about how they're way past actually needing to put a Neuralink inside of people's bodies, that they actually can do this via, which we all know, they put this stuff, the nanoparticles, in our food. They spray us with the nanoparticles. I still personally believe that they do need to have this injected directly into our bloodstream in order for us to be able to visibly see the brain-computer interface. Now, do I know that for a fact? I don't, but I would find it pretty hard to believe that even with the experiments that they're running right now, that they'd be able to hook us up to a machine where we actually could see in front of our faces what we look at as the desktop on our cell phones or on our computers out of our own eyes. I believe that they do have to get the nanotechnology injected in your bloodstream, but I don't believe that you actually have to have a chip installed in your brain, because Elon Musk has told us that you don't have to have this surgery done, that we can inject it into you. But you don't hear about that, of course, because they don't want you to realize that they've been doing it to you. They don't want you to realize that the entire experiment of COVID-19 was about getting this technology injected inside of people's bodies, seeing how many people took to it, how many people died from it, seeing how many people were actually connected to the Internet of Bodies. And of course, the other things that we know that DARPA has been working on is obviously using thermal sensors that are designed to detect stress or fear or intent inside of the human body. They know what our emotions are before we even know what they are. They can detect these things through thermal imaging. Here are just some clips for those of you that haven't seen these before in regards to DARPA.
This is why it becomes so important to understand the novelty and the viability of neuroscience is being leveraged as weapons. We then have the use of nanoparticulate agents, aerosolizable nanomaterials that can be breathed in and disrupt blood flow or neurological network activity, that can be used as an in-close weapon, or perhaps that can be used as a more broad weapon of disruption and or destruction. We also have the capability to utilize nanomaterials to get electrodes into a head and to create a vast array of viable sensors and transmitters. This is DARPA's N-Cubed program, next generation non-invasive neuromodulation, utilizing these techniques and technologies to create vast arrays of implantable electrodes that need not be put into the brain surgically, that are then able to read from the brain and write into the brain remotely in real time. And there is a rapid pace. The prizes are big, economically, in terms of power as well, but there are risks and hazards. Yeah, there are conventions that are out there, but the question then arises, are these conventions not just necessary, but are they sufficient? These international signatory treaties have suggested that no, they're not. They're really not keeping their finger on the pulse of the rapid development of brain sciences, not only within the United States and its allied nations, but internationally. And sometimes in programs that utilize commercial veiling to be able to then hide behind in terms of what's being made available to make their military intelligence personnel better, and to develop a whole arsenal of weapons, both kinetically and non-kinetically, that can then decrement the performance of competitors and adversaries.
March 16th, 2018. The U.S. government's Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, commonly known as DARPA, announces a bold initiative to develop what they call next-generation non-surgical neurotechnology. It is designed to allow the human brain to directly interface with machines.
We know that DARPA is exploring human-machine interfaces that include direct connections between the brain and outside systems. That's been from the beginning of DARPA's information technology mission, and it continues to this day. DARPA has created some of the most influential technologies of all time, things that we use and take for granted every day, including the project that became the internet. They've created self-driving cars, stealth technology, GPS that fits in your pocket. That's DARPA's specialty, to imagine the future and create it.
A new technology that is actually very much on the verge of being a reality that is being fielded is we could have a sensor maybe on the surface of our head, or maybe implanted somewhere in our body, in our brain, or something that allows us to interact directly with our communications gear, our processing gear, our weapon systems, and so on. But now imagine we take that technology and we can control robots at a distance with it. Even fly drones. You put this sensor on and you think the right way, and you can increase the speed of the fan by thinking and controlling that thought with direct-to-mind or mind-machine interfacing. With that type of capability, you could control all sorts of buttons and mechanisms in equipment.
Mind-machine interfaces will have many applications in both civilian and military life. But there are those who believe that this same technology could also be used by DARPA as a new form of mind control. Like their counterparts at the CIA, DARPA-funded researchers have spent decades investigating how the human mind can be altered. In 1965, DARPA launched Project Pandora, which studied the possibility of using microwave radiation to control human behavior.
The project reportedly ended in 1969, but DARPA's investigation of how machines can affect and possibly control the brain continues to this day.
There are explicit programs of DARPA to read and write to human brains, whether it's through direct implants within the brain or wearing some kind of cap. So these things are being worked on, and we know that.
So what's the next step? Maybe the next step is we can send instructions and information to an actual person from a distance with this kind of technology to let another person control their actions. But that could be something that could be malicious.
If there's some way to do it from a distance, a much greater distance than something that you can wear on your scalp, that would be the ultimate technological achievement that would fall into this realm of mind control and direct human-machine interface that DARPA may well want to keep secret.
In the near future, DARPA may possess the technology to remotely control the human mind. But as concerning as that may be, according to some scientists, a more permanent kind of mind control technology is looming. And it involves modifying the human brain by altering the human body's DNA.
The future of mind control, and the future being right now because these experiments are being done, is using gene editing tools. And one of them would be CRISPR. The way it works is take the CRISPR, which are these short alternating repeats of DNA. You put that together with an enzyme called Cas. And so you take the CRISPR that you want to use, and you put these pieces together that can be injected and insert this DNA to certain areas of the brain so that we can change brain cells and turn you into something you wouldn't otherwise be. So in this way, gene editing technologies like CRISPR really form a definite basis for future mind control.
These are things that DARPA has investigated. Every technology has the potential for good or evil, and who defines what's good and what's evil, and who uses it for what purpose. These are all questions that have been asked about everything from rockets to self-driving vehicles. We still don't have a good handle on the ethics of various technologies that we use. The technologists tend not to be so concerned with the ethics. That seems to be the domain of other people, policymakers, for example, academics, people like this. There needs to be a hand-in-hand interaction with people creating technology and those who are considering the ethics of that technology.
While we fight over minimum wage, they're funding machines that can feel your emotions through your skin. DARPA's pouring millions into thermal sensors and AI systems trained to detect stress, fear, and even intent. These systems already exist in labs. Some are being tested on drones. And if they ever go into orbit, you won't know they're there. But they'll be watching, quietly, constantly. They don't need to ask how you feel. They already know what you're about to think.
And again, one of the scariest things about all of this technology is how we've willingly participated in it. Think about Wi-Fi routers, how they openly admit that they can actually map the entire inside of your home using thermal imaging. These routers literally give them a map of where you are in your home, what you're doing in your home, what your body temperature is, what your mood is, and of course we know everything else inside the home. Ever since those 2 towers went down, every single device that we bring into our home that has the word smart attached to it is obviously listening and monitoring us 24/7. The word smart refers to self-monitoring, analysis, and reporting technology. So all of this smart technology, from smart meters to smartphones to smart cars, all of it, smart refrigerators, some of the stuff that I've jokingly made fun of because it's incredible that people are buying this new type of smart technology without even asking themselves, what's the point? Like the washer and dryer is the perfect example. What are you going to do? You're going to physically put it in the washing machine, but it's too hard for you to press the button. Oh, you want to go into the other room, and then you might want to do it later on your phone. You still got to go in and flip your laundry and put it in the dryer. But people still buy this technology. We see it with the refrigerators. What is the purpose of a smart refrigerator? They don't even know how to market this to people, yet these people are still buying it. They go, well, you know, the smart refrigerator is going to be able to tell you what the weather forecast is outside. Ooh, wonderful. Ooh, you could have, digitally imposed pictures on your refrigerator instead of actually hanging a picture with a magnet like in the old days, right? And these people go and they buy it and they bring it into their home. But we're no better. We're no different. Just because we don't have those specific devices, at least I don't, we still allow this technology in our lives every single day. And that's really what I've been so torn with. I feel duped that from the get-go, when this technology was released, that I wasn't smart enough to figure out what it actually was. There was a lot of people who obviously weren't smart enough to figure out what this technology was. But those of us who still know what it is, we still allow it in our day-to-day lives. Even if you put, Faraday bags and all these Faraday cages to block the frequencies from these devices, they're constantly around us and they're constantly listening to us. And now there's really no escape because we've built our own prison. Even if we don't have this technology in our home, our neighbors have this technology. And if they're standing next to you somewhere and you're talking about these things, that phone is picking it up and it's able to recognize your voice and report it right to the FBI, the CIA, or whatever defense agency they want to report it to. Your neighbors have rings on their doorbell. You can't even walk down the street with them seeing you on a camera somewhere, and everybody thinks this is a wonderful thing because they say, well, it can help stop crimes. I heard it stopped a crime on a crime show. We need more of this stuff. And now this prison has been built around us, and now all that's left for them to do is get this technology inside of people's bodies. And they might be doing it already. I mean, they are doing it already. I've covered smart dust many times. I've talked about the nanotechnology we all have. When we've seen graphene oxide, the experiments with magnets inside of beverages or on top of food, where you could see the graphene oxide get pulled out of the food, the little black dots that would come out of the chicken breast or the Coca-Cola when a magnet is held up against it and it's fully magnetized. But I still do believe that part of what they need to have happen is that people need to get this directly in their bloodstream. I don't know if it fully takes just from us inhaling it. Obviously, there's lots of things we all can do to detox from this. There's lots of supplements that you can take. Obviously, God tells us for a reason that our body is our temple. And a lot of people do a good job of taking care of their bodies to try to combat all of this nanotechnology and all the chemical baths that they give us on a day in and day out basis. So I just wanted to do a video on that, because I just find it laughable when people talk about these guys and look, I fell for it too in the beginning. Oh, this guy started a company, Amazon. You're like, oh, okay, what is it? Oh, this Zuckerberg took the idea from those twins at Harvard. Oh, okay. Then you just feel like a fool all these years later when you realize, wow, these guys are just fronts for it all. And I think they pick the goofiest, lamest people to actually do it. Now, obviously, there's a connection with all of these people to what they're actually trying to build out, right? We know, I guess mentioned earlier, Bezos directly connected to one of the founding fathers of DARPA. Elon Musk, obviously his grandfather, and the connection to technocracy, which is what they're trying to build out in America. So there's a connection, and you have Zuckerberg, believed to be the grandson, the grandchild of David Rockefeller. So they're just picking these people off the streets, but when you look at these people, they don't look human. I mean, David Rockefeller didn't look human, doesn't look human. Zuckerberg certainly doesn't. We've seen thousands of memes and all sorts of jokes have been cracked over the years how he looks like an actual alien. Jeff Bezos obviously looks like something's wrong with him. Elon Musk is clearly not the brightest guy in the world. And it's almost like they rub it in because they want you to think that these are the smartest guys in the world, and they're going to dictate how our lives are determined in the future with this technology that they're unleashing. And when we ask questions and say, well, who's allowing them to unleash it? Well, none of us are stopping them from doing it. We're willingly participating in this DARPA experiment. And again, this is all under the front of these shell corporations that we've willingly participated in by buying the tech, going on these websites, and allowing them to build out this new world order right in front of our faces. I thank everybody for being here. I hope you're all doing well. God bless you and your families as always.